in Georgetown and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village. Convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. The 9th day into the 12th month. Wow. Chance to think of what 2023 will be like. Well, we get a chance to ask you to save the date and be part of the annual agriculture show. The president of the Cayman Agriculture Society, George Lulu Smith. Hey, thanks for coming in. February already. I mean, you guys got through Christmas beef yet, but we'll talk about that.
It's right here, Dwayne. And thank you and Radio Cayman, too, for allowing us to come on and talk about the show.
Yeah, and for some, we would appreciate that the farmers, cattle ranchers, everybody making preparations, and they're not going to wait till January or February. They started from last year, probably 3 years ago, getting that prize bull and the like.
Yeah, they have been in preparation. All of them were sad because, for the past 2 years for COVID, we never had a show. Mm-hmm. And they were ready to go. It's just that, no one, I would say, expected COVID to be as it was, but they're definitely ready to go.
Yeah, well, I say it in jest, and hopefully it was said the same amongst our politicians, mostly not just local but internationally. Never let a good crisis go to waste. So in that time we could prepare, let the crops come to fruition, we sow the seed as it were. So February, so this is December. Okay, so we got a couple months left.
Yeah.
What date in February? Do we know it already?
February the 22nd.
22nd of February.
Ash Wednesday.
Ash Wednesday. Always an Ash Wednesday.
Always Ash Wednesday.
Oh, I know the date. And it's going to be at the same site it's been for the last 1,000 years?
Yeah, same site. Just that the site is going to be looking even better than what it was before, actually.
Wow. Yeah. And to have a sort of central hub and to see Savannah in particular, what it is for many of us, it's not just a central point, but it's sort of the farming to a great extent.
Yeah, definitely when you're looking at farmland per se, Savannah is the hub for all of it. And it's going further east now, where quite a number of farms is in the East End, right? But definitely everybody in Cayman knows that Savannah is the hub for farming most of them.
All right. So what is sort of some of the, well, if not the main thing, but maybe what are some of the other things this particular agriculture show is hoping to showcase?
Well, if anyone came to the last one, we had some acrobatic teams there from Chicago. This year, I'm not going to let it out yet. We are actually working on 2 different groups, so definitely it's going to be exciting. Yeah, very much so.
And I think I'm glad you shared that too, because it's not just about the agriculture sector. The prize bulls that we have, the increase in goats and other herds, and like the plants, whether flowering or fruit bearing. But there are other activities that come online increasingly. The introduction of the pet and zoo some time back reminds us of what was in the early days. So we have a lot and some interesting things that come up.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing about the agriculture show, Dwayne, is that, when you look at it, you got a little taste of every district. And when I say that is that, during that agriculture show day, you'll always find someone that you never saw in 10 years. You sit down and reminisce about back in the day or whatever. But and it's family oriented, that you don't find where a lot of the older people, they don't really go out per se, but they definitely comes to the agriculture show.
And they go there early for their plant sales. They want to stay in the cool of the day. I was asking someone once we confirm our discussion was set for today, if in the Cayman Islands, not just across the districts on Grand Cayman, but on the BRAC in particular, are there particular islands or particular districts and parts of each island that are synonymous, famous for certain things? If you're looking for something, this is where you go for it. If you're thinking of this, then that's the place that comes to mind.
Well, yeah, I would say, each district brags that they have the best food. If you go east end, they can tell you that they have the best food. If you go north side, they're going to tell you the same thing. If you go to West Bay, definitely they're going to tell you the same thing, and Georgetown and all the other districts. But what I can say is that during that agriculture show day, I would say it's like a taste off of you have persons from all districts, that they're showcasing the best of what they do, right? Sometimes when I listen, I don't eat conch and lobster and turtle and stuff, but if sometimes my mouth waters when you listen to how they tell you, that this is what they're gonna have and come and try theirs, like Mr. Alvin and them, they pushes the issue to make sure that they produce the best of the best.
And there is that healthy competition for the foods, and I was wondering too, you can see certain people, certain farmers, just generally speaking, from different districts. You quickly think of a district, this person comes to mind, past or present, but also I wonder about fruits, different things, and the fellow was saying that from the BRAC perspective, he has a very, very strong affinity for the BRAC, so I can respect that. But if you look at it, the work of going up on the bluff, as a boy, and seeing what it could be, he didn't phrase it quite like this, but when I said sort of the bread basket, he said, of the Cayman Islands, are we preserving that? We've seen the arable lands on Grand Cayman, building over water lenses, challenges to food security, but also the notion that we may be taking away what could have been a passion and interest, not just a lucrative one for people, because we just don't have it anymore.
Yeah, and I totally agree. That's one of the concerns, because the arable land per se is going to subdivisions and whatnot, right? It's becoming a little harder to farm, and when I say that is that, for example, people has been farming in particular areas for as long as they can remember. But what's happening is that the island is becoming a little bit more populated. Yeah. And some people just they purchase the property next door, even though a farm was there, but all of a sudden they're not liking it anymore, right? So it's like a fine line, and I know that the minister is and his team is looking into ways that we can kind of balance that, because there is going to be there is an issue now, and it's going to continue to get bigger. I mean, as the island become more populated.
I think to what is promising, he was here publicly as Carol Lawrence, and Gordon Whitaker and James was as well, sharing not just the blending of technology and new techniques, but an investment that could increase the yield, increase the quality of that yield, provide an extended growing season, and hopefully through the agriculture show, the interest that people like yourselves, Mr. Franklin, Mr. Paul, all the others have had very consistent, concerted effort over these, some would say centuries. I mean, 2020 was a long century, 2021 was a long century, so these last centuries. But I wonder, when we come back from the break, if I could ask you more about the agriculture, more about the idea of us being involved and seeing it for, one, national security from the food perspective. Two, what skill sets do we have that we can bring to the table? And that interest that somebody may have now in a particular area, instead of being nurtured and guided into that, could there be, just generally speaking, within the agriculture sector, a promising individual that may go into research, new technologies and techniques and propagation and the like? Yep. We're going to pause. We're going to take that break. When we come back, we'll tell you more about the upcoming agriculture show. You think, wow, where can I get my Christmas beef? Maybe Lulu can tell us. Definitely. All right, stay tuned.
You know, Savannah Pharmacy saved my life.
Really? Was it the medication they got you?
No, not this time. I forgot my wife's birthday. They were the perfect place for last-minute shopping.
That's one way to give yourself heart failure. Don't wait last minute for Christmas. Savannah Pharmacy is stocked up for Christmas right now. Gifts for men, women, and children. Home decor, clothes, toys for all ages, fragrances, candles, handbags, and so much more. I was there the other day, and trust me, they'll even wrap all your presents too.
Savannah Pharmacy, a lifesaver in more ways than one.
Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village provides you with more than just prescriptions. Always just around the corner with everything your family needs for this holiday season. WhatsApp your prescription refills to 929-5045.
They say variety is the spice of life. And that's why at Subway, we're introducing the new Boneless Hot Sub.
Say what?
The premium sub brings new ingredients like spicy breaded boneless chicken, French's crispy fried onions, and buffalo wing sauce, bringing a zesty and flavorful experience with every bite. Add some of your favorite veggies, cheese, and ranch sauce of your choice of freshly baked bread for the ultimate boneless hot sub. For a little spice in your life, try the new boneless hot sub from Subway.
So good and tasty.
And make it a meal with a drink and chips or cookies. Subway. Eat fresh.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
It's the final sale of the year at Reflections with up to 50% savings on selected famous brands such as Nike, Reebok, Puma, US Polo, Adidas, Levi's, and Dockers pants for men and women. This holiday gift-giving season, Reflections gift certificates are the easiest way to share your love with friends and family. Levi's and Dockers holiday collection just arrived. Discover your new style and enjoy huge savings on shoes, bags, accessories, and the most fashionable clothing for all your holiday parties. Hurry in today. Purchase Reflections gift certificates for everyone on your shopping list and outfit yourself from their finest holiday collection. Don't miss up to 50% off savings at Reflections Holiday Sales Event. See yourself in Reflections. Open 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Thursday and until 9 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. Reflections is located on Sheridan Road across from Napa.
Attention all food vendors, farmers, artisans, and craftspeople. The Ministry of Culture and Heritage invites you to take part in Cayman Christmas, a celebration of culture and music. It's happening Wednesday, 14th of December, 5 p.m. until 9 p.m. at the West Bay Heritage Park. Vendor stalls are free. All interested vendors must register by today, Friday, the 9th of December. If you need additional information, call 623-8825.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks very much for joining us. And as we have a discussion, sort of not only save the date, but an excitement building for February 22nd next year. Can you believe that already? That's what we're saying. The Agriculture Show on an Ash Wednesday, as always. Speaking to the president of the Cayman Agriculture Society, George Smith, the 22nd of February, 2023. That sounds like a long time.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a long time, but you know, as everybody says, time flies, and for some reason, you know, during this Christmas period, especially, you know, two blinks and it's like Christmas again, and you know, when we all sit down and look, Christmas is just met by just last week.
Yep.
That's how it seems.
My mom would say 2 licks and a promise. That's it. You know, and it's how it is. You know, so for the people, you know, I did ask, and I'll leave it to you because partly in jest. many of us are looking for Christmas beef. That may be Christmas, New Year, maybe the only time that we want to get a little taste of, beef. For some, it's just another Sunday, and they're eating, Christmas beef every Sunday. But the abattoir, we know the inspections have been announced from the Department of Agriculture.
Yeah.
So people are excited. They've got their prize ready to be laid to the abattoir.
What I've found doing is that yes, we do eat beef, more frequently throughout the year compared to when you speak to the older people, right? But it's something about Christmas that if you go to anybody's house, they definitely want a piece of beef.
Yeah.
They gotta have a piece of beef, right? I don't know really and truly. I can't really answer what it is that the farmers do to make it a little sweeter during Christmas. But trust me, you can say, well, I had beef last week. But definitely when it comes to Christmas, every household in Cayman, I would say, is going to have a piece of beef and whatever else that they prefer, right? So definitely.
And even those who may have it more frequently because of availability, I found, not scientific inquiry, just, in general observation, two things, One, they want a particular cut of beef that is just special to them.
Exactly.
That's the notion. They're going to have that. And it's their beef, man. And Christmas and beef, I don't know, man. Like turtle meat and cornbread.
Well, like I give you a joke right now. Last year it was a little mix up where I didn't get the beef on time. And I was kind of fretting because I was saying, how in the world I gonna break this news to my mother?
Oh,
and,
boy.
and me and my brother had to get up 2:00 in the morning and go to Savannah and check Mr. Otto's son Bruce, and that's how we got beef. And I'm like, okay, because I didn't want to tell her because I know, because she's like, from last month she's telling you, remember this piece of beef. Remember,
Did you engage this yet?
Yeah, exactly.
And you got to get it for some by a certain time.
Yes.
They don't want it before, they don't want it after that. They got to get it ready to season.
Yep.
They got to prep. This is when you're going to need to go in the pot, but it needs to be ready by a certain time to be able to, chill for a certain time.
Exactly right.
Boy, no one I see you today then still, because if you hadn't got our beef, you might be coming in.
Exactly.
Yeah, a year later.
So true.
But it is that sort of special, and kind of, I think what agriculture show is for many. They may not, as you shared, make many outings for the year, whether they're just young or young at heart, but agriculture show is for them. So this year, other things, admission to the scene, parking, you guys have done a lot to encourage the public and make it more convenient.
Well, what we're going to do this year coming in is we want to basically have some satellite parking spots where you're gonna hear about it later on, where they're going to be incentivized. If you use those, you can get on the bus, you'll go directly into the show. So you'll hear more things, because as time go by, we got to try to be innovative and find ways and means to make it happen, right? Because I know one of the big things is the traffic, right? It's like no matter what you do in Cayman, you can't get away from that to a certain extent. But we're gonna try our best to make it happen, which over the years it has been largely improved. But we'll continue working on it. And also, you spoke about the younger farmers actually earlier. Definitely, I think we need more younger farmers to get involved. Because we have farmers like Mr. Otto, Mr. Melbourne, Mr. Hamlin, Mr. Harvey. They're getting up in age. Not saying that they're over the hill yet, but they're getting up in age. They can't do what they used to do. So in order for it to continue, I would say we need younger people involved, and younger people is more technological savvy per se, and I would say long are the days of where you're going out there with a hoe and people would say, well, I'm not working my life out, right? But nowadays with technology, anything is possible.
It is, I think, a combination of that, sort of adoption, utilization of a technology, but there's also that resolve and resilience, that work ethic, because if you have a very highly automated facility, and we've seen some. I go back to what Carol Lawrence and them are trying to do, him and Cody. It's amazing the confidence they have, the commitment to make that sort of investment. But you still need to go monitor. You need to go check. You need to make sure quality control. You need to do all the things that you would. You just can't leave it in. Turn on the light and change the bulb. There's a work ethic that comes with it.
But it's like anything in life, if you don't have passion for whatever it is, you're not gonna be so successful at it. I think the more passion you got towards it, definitely. I think it's just like when we were talking about cooking, right? That when you go to East End or North Side or Georgetown or Westby, and you go to some of those older folks places, from when you pick up the first fork, that they put love and care and passion into that plate of food, right? So that's the whole thing. I mean, and I think that's life. If you don't have passion to come to Radio Cayman, you're gonna come late. You're gonna be lousy.
And anything you do, you gotta have that commitment, as you say, that passion for it.
Exactly.
And I know that is true in almost every instance. Although I understand that, one fella in particular, it's the work ethic that he goes to work every day. Almost 40 years later, he retires, and I remember saying to him, "Man, you must have really enjoyed your job." He worked for 2 entities in that time, all in the same sector. All right. He said, "No, I just had a family to feed and to raise. Didn't like it. Now he's enjoying life. Why? Well, he's on a boat." But that wasn't a viable living, right? And yet, so you already have that passion, but having that commitment, that work ethic. You get up and you go.
Yeah.
And if you're a farmer that does it up, from 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, or because you plow in the fields with your hand, or whether you're using the latest technology, you got to be committed, right?
Yeah, and especially here in Cayman. I mean, that's why we encourage the public to support the farmers, support the farmers market. The reasons being is that our terrain is not like when you travel and you see those large pastures, as far as I can see, and I went to one farm and the gentleman told me if I found a rock on his property that was imported, and I smiled and I said to myself, well, we in Cayman, is the opposite, right? So they have to have passion and to be a farmer here, and I mean, you can see it. I mean, and that's why we were talking about the beef earlier. That's why we're confident that the standard of beef is on the rise. A few years ago we imported some cattle that had embryos in them, and the embryos were the Wagyu, the Japanese Wagyu. Now their offsprings is having offsprings, so they're introduced into our local herd. So definitely, I think for those out there, the beef will definitely get better and better, and this year is no exception.
In the Wagyu, I'm glad you mentioned that. I mean, I know Mr. Paul references another one that I always struggle to remember how to say it, but for those who, even like me, just casually, pay reference to it, what they, in Japan, what they do with the Wagyu, with the massaging and the musical therapy, it is this tender. Would we have that same outcome here?
I'm going to say that our style of raising animals, right? For example, a lot of the animals is not put out into pasture anymore. Sort of the food is brought to them. All right, so they're not, okay. If you go to any place that has a lot of mountains and stuff, you'll notice that those persons that live there, they have bigger calves. Because if they're walking up those mountains and stuff, so it's the same thing. If you're walking out and about all the time, you're gonna be a little bit more leaner and muscular than right. So that is basically our system here in Cayman is turning more like a feedlot system, where you bring the grass to the animal instead of just letting them out and go because pastures is becoming hard to come by. But definitely, we may not be 100% like the Wagyu in Japan that is massaged, but I'll be willing to bet anybody that if you try the local beef compared to, say, let's just say the USDA Angus beef, for example, we are right there. We're right up there,
if not better.
Yeah, exactly. With taste, we definitely above them, for sure.
And that was the second point. Not only is it that Christmas, if they're going to have beef, there's a particular cut that they may be inclined to go for as a treat, for whatever the reason. But then also, for many of us, it has to be the local beef.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing to do with anything else. It's just maybe tradition, maybe it's association, it may be expectation, it may be just a knowledge that they deserve to treat themselves because of it's now available.
And I can say this thing: you can't fool no local. No local. If you told them that you had Cayman style beef, but it was not local beef, you can't fool them.
There's a difference.
Yeah, they'll know right away.
Yeah, and this is why, like your mama and mine, everybody else, get that beef from so and so by this time, because they got a process. They need to make sure that they can, season it and not shred it.
Exactly.
Yeah, do the things that we're seeing gradually change, but we need to be, willing to respect the heritage, the culture. I appreciate it, man. And I know between now and February, we'll be back on talking about the agriculture show.
Definitely.
So I'll do a little preview to you and the team, the volunteers, the farmers. We're glad that there's that interest. Hopefully more of us will be able to pick up the mantle because somebody at some point wants to go fishing a little bit more often, right?
Yeah. And I just want to say too, Dwayne, is that stall sales are open. What we done is we gave persons that was there previously the first option, but it's open now. Any businesses that wants to sponsor us, please feel free and contact the office at 947-3696. And definitely I would like to reach out to our people and support your farmers. And the reasons why is that we always talk about food security, but if you don't support it, definitely they will get discouraged and they'll go into something else. And one thing I've known is that we can say what we want to say, but we all have to eat.
Whatever your choice of food is, and however you and whenever, but we need to have something to eat, right?
Definitely.
All right, Lulu, thanks, man. And hopefully people will contact the office as you shared. Not only make plans to attend, but just to look at, as one of our listeners shared, the backyard farming, looking at much,
Yeah.
But thanks very much.
Thank you. And Radio Cayman also.
All right.
Thanks.
We'll pause and take a break, and when we return, it'll be open line. Check that out. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips. For all occasions and celebrations, let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Increase your chance to win during the Rubis Pure Joy promotion. Don't miss Top Up Tuesdays at Jose's Rubis. Reflections offers you gas for less. Earn a stamp each time you spend $25 at Jose's Rubis. Collect all 8 stamps and you're entered to win cash, laptops, phones, and smart TVs during the Rubis weekly giveaways. Plus a grand prize of a piece of land in Grand Cayman, valued at $150,000.
What? Are you serious?
Ensure that you're healthy and fit before you visit with family and friends. Reflections offers 2 lateral flow test kits or 10 stylish black surgical masks for only $10. Purchase Reflections gift certificates for your loved ones and get entered to win a $150,000 piece of land during the Rubis Pure Joy promotion at Jose's Rubis.
Tune in Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. for the Daily Sports Report, covering local, regional, and international sports. Proudly brought to you by Dr. Wayne Porter, offering a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. Call 946-9020 to book your appointment today.
The Ministry of Culture and Heritage invites all to an evening of delicious food, festive music, and Cayman's most skillful artisans and craftspeople. Cayman Christmas, a celebration of culture and music. Wednesday, 14th December, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. West Bay Heritage Park. Buy your last-minute Christmas gifts, eat some of Cayman's finest cuisine, and listen to the heavenly sound of choirs in the Christmas Choir Competition. Admission is free.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you much for joining us. Want you to be a part of the discussion. It's going to be open line for now until the show ends at quitting time. And then when is that? When Susan says, "Lucky boy, stop it now, I'll get that timer and switch for you." Well, on behalf of the Honourable Minister for Health, Ms. Serena Turner, she was hoping to join us today for a bit, and we want to extend an apologies. Very engaging, taxing schedule at times, takes our parliamentarians onto other endeavours, especially when they have to sit in the cabinet and the like. So, Honourable Minister will not be able to join us as expected. But that means we got a couple choices, We could have some fun today. I was thinking and toying that we could do a little bit of, stuff. But it's the 9th of December. I know tomorrow in our history, some remember the 10th, of December 1831. I think Susan and I were just sitting on the railing looking at the proceedings from the balcony, but no, we weren't. But we heard the stories. For some, it's International Human Rights Day. For some, it's birthday celebration. I'm looking forward to that as well. So, what, if anything, would you want to share with us? And in particular, do you think that with all that's been happening in the last, well, you could say, calendar years, because it would seem that if we go back to, January of 2020, that earthquake that shook us all, in a sense, and then all that the world has experienced since. We had the 2021, and now we're drawing 2022 to a close. What has life been like for you? What are your Christmas wishes? Or it may only be one single solitary wish. And what about the Christmas memories? Do you think that we need to dig a little bit deeper because of what has been unfolding in our personal lives to see if we can find a joy and try to remind ourselves that even though we know we're thankful and gracious, we just have an incredible challenge to exude that true zest for life? Or do you say, you know what, it's a fait accompli? What has been is just the nature of things, so it's no longer a case, Sarah. It's a question of what is it that we are doing and have done and potentially will do. Well, I want to hear from you. I want to make sure our phone lines are available to you. I want to ensure that you have that access. And despite that the year is coming close, to a close, we can still talk, about any and every issue, from the political to the social to the economic, to the environmental. So if you are having a challenge as a customer of Flow to access the Flow toll-free line, they are aware. We know that some of the prepaid customers are expressed the challenge to access it. We also hear from one or two others that they say, well, from time to time I have an issue. Technology is a great servant, I would say, but not always, But we have two, other phone lines that you can try: 949-8037, 949-6990, plus a WhatsApp number that you can use, 925-3261. That is like how, for this show, only use to either send a voice note or you can send a message, and we will share it with our listeners if that is your intent. But again, options are there. I'm always reminded that you have many options, at least two. Take it or leave it. Make another one if you want. 949-8037, 949-6990, or WhatsApp 925-3261. Of course, the toll-free line if you want. Now, you may have heard, hopefully, on our news that we are expecting a new governor coming up in March. I think many of us are going to certainly not only look forward to welcoming Mrs. Jean Owen, it's our second female governor, but we're going to be, very, very saddened to see Mr. Martin Roper and his family leave as well. It's just, I guess, part of career changes and progression and repositioning and the like. And it maybe harkens well that we continue to attract such top caliber diplomats to serve in such high office. And maybe one day, not to look at it lightly, we can have a meeting of minds and be able to speak to the former governors. Many fondly recall Mr. Russell. Some would even go back to when it was called an administrator and speak fondly of Mr. Cumber. We've been having much progress, and as the country moves forward, hopefully it's always in a positive direction. Now, I've reminded a few people sometimes that, are you moving forward or are you moving positive? Because other times, like a football match where you want to win and the objective is to get the goal, that play sometimes is by moving the ball side to side. Now, naturally, it has to be a forward progression, but to get it there, you may have to make a diagonal shift. You go sideways. Sometimes you take it back all the way to the keeper to restart again. But every step is a positive step that moves you closer to your objective. And I ask that, in saying to question, to what extent are we consciously making those positive steps? Are we willing to build on the legacy of our parents and their parents and our forefathers? Are we committed to making that level of sacrifice to serve our country? Or as a gentleman reminded us in an earlier presentation, that too often we're selfish and self-serving. And perhaps given that this particular time of year, most of us, thankfully, are willing to put aside, personal animosities and pettiness and look increasingly at what is perhaps one of the few times, within this society that we are very, very mindful of giving, to each other. Now, some would share that there are those who may see it as an opportune time because there are efficiencies to be had. Some may say, well, it's an opportune time, people guards are down, so they can, sometimes innocently or even very deliberately and consciously, do certain things. Or we look to history where examples have been shared or certain legislation being amended, introduced and passed and the like. Some would say, well, why would you do that? Well, again, it could be the efficiencies, it could just be it's practical, it could be because people know that many will be caught, as they say, flat-footed. But it certainly shouldn't be a case where we are letting our guards down and we're not mindful to be our brother's keeper. And that's where I think that whole concept can always extend where we're providing for each other, but when we know one is maybe preoccupied with something else, or we can stand in the gap. So let us know if the phone lines are open. Let us know if you have a thought, and let us know what is it that you want to share with us. I've had one or twice this week to go with a few people to look at a number of properties along the 7 Mile Beach Peninsula, as it were, and a few pointed out potentially that some of the structures could be in need of repair. One individual said, not by any chance an engineer, but having spoken to a few others, wonder what that receding sort of coastline would do, as that property seems to come increasingly closer and closer to the water's edge. And for others, the idea that it's becoming impassable in some cases. A few have shared, look at the beach, how it's banking in some places, how we've seen, over the years, more and more rocky outcroppings and the like. Now, one individual, and it's something that I had shared, I would pass along to perhaps the good folks in planning or some other entity. Are we looking at structures? And he pointed out one new development along West Bay Road, where he thought, this could potentially be an issue relative to the structural integrity. We see how certain buildings, we're told, they settle. Some would say they're sinking. We've seen sinkholes open up in certain places, from condo complexes to public roads to private homes and the like. And the concern is, what are we building on, and what methods are we employed, and hopefully the safety. All right, let's have a pause, take a break, go to our headline news, and when we come back, give us a shout and share your thoughts. Stay tuned.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. Proceedings in Parliament yesterday, Thursday, December 8th, 2022, included tabling 20 reports and papers by government ministers and an official member. This included 13 reports about the finances of the Cayman Islands, with one tabled about Moody's Investors Services granting an AA3 stable rating for the Cayman Islands, the same as the UK's and just 3 notches below the highest rating of Moody's. In international news, one of Russia's most prominent opposition figures has been jailed for 8.5 years for spreading fake news about the country's military. One of a few Kremlin critics to stay in Russia after it invaded Ukraine, Yashin continued to speak out against the war. He was arrested after he condemned suspected Russian war crimes in the Ukrainian town of Bucha. Young people in France will have free access to condoms from January in a bid to minimize the spread of sexually transmitted infections. The French president announced the new health measure on Thursday at an event for young people's health. Emmanuel Macron said young people would be able to collect them from pharmacies and described the move as a small revolution in prevention. In 2020 and 2021, France experienced a 30% national increase in STI rates. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Born September 25, 1947, at Watering Place, Cayman Brac, Royce Adolphus Dilbert was the firstborn son to Helen and Grace Dilbert, née Tibbets. Mr. Dilbert was a hard-working man who spent numerous years at sea, as well as employing his diverse skill sets on land. In 1979, he would marry Yvette Jackson and took employment with Cayman Brac Power and Light Company in 1981 as chief engineer, where he remained until his retirement in December of 2018. Heavily influenced by his wife, in 1982 he gave his heart to the Lord and joined her at Ebenezer Baptist Church, where he later served as interim pastor in 2002 to 2007, becoming pastor in 2017. Mr. Dilbert was a charter member of the Rotary Club of Cayman Brac, served as PTA president at Creek Primary School, worked with the youth in the community, president of the Veterans and Seamen Society, and was a member of the Development and Control Board Cayman Brac until his passing. Royce was a devoted father to 7 children, loved to fish, and had a passion for cars.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands, the ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom, the land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your Sister Islands.
Discover all that our Sister Islands have to offer.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us. It's open line, and to the gentleman that just sent a message, I share with you. I will try before the end of the show to read all that you sent, including the link. Couldn't just open it just then. Once I know, I can probably reference that. His second part of his message was talking about what's happening in our House of Parliament, and we know the discussion relative to a referendum on gambling and on cannabis, ganja, and the like. Some of us would say, well, let's start with decriminalizing. Some of us would say, well, why not full-blown legalization, and to what extent? If you're inclined, and certainly I would welcome the education, not just the difference between legalizing and decriminalizing, but what is your thought? Is that something that there should be a referendum? If so, how do we go about it? Is your view that it's a good thing to have it? Do we take away some of the issues surrounding the consequences of people who use, just for their personal consumption? Are we looking only at their medicinal properties? Would we extend it to potentially as a revenue source for government, whether it's a tax on sales, whether it's the licensing of the vendors? But what about the quality control and perhaps the potential to grow some of our stuff? We know, many would share, that if you eat what you grow and grow what you eat, you have potentially the opportunity for better quality, more organic. Now, obviously, that depends on how you go about the growing process, the growing conditions, including the soil, what fertilizers, if any, that you use. So not just because you grow something in your backyard or on your farm that is in your country and is 5 minutes from the market, that it necessarily is healthier or better yield, better quality. But it could be. Perhaps some would say it should be. But then we know that relative to ganja, we are increasingly understanding from the authorities that there are many instances of when the product comes into the shores, not only is it illegally sort of brought into the country, irrespective of its origin, but the method by which it is done, if it's by boat, for instance, potential risk and danger to the individuals bringing it across, taking that risk for that potential reward. There is the prospect, increasingly through the interdiction efforts of our Coast Guard, that they will be arrested, and then there'll be those costs, not just to prosecute and incarcerate, but the cost to the people. But as we're told, to make sure that the product gets there, I don't know if you want to say safely, has a longer shelf life. I apologize, I don't know much about it. I haven't made an effort to really look into it closely either. But chemicals like formaldehyde and other things are used in the sort of spraying and treatment and the like to make sure that the shipment arrives, perhaps better. Some has shared with me that level of preservative is no different than the products. Some of the products we buy in our supermarkets. They're laden with different preservatives to extend the shelf life, maybe to enhance the flavor, what have you, that those products are done. Maybe the same sort of approach. But then there's the concern of, well, not only will they be using this, but what if they combine it with some other drug and then use it in that capacity? That quality control, the licensing, regulation, and revenue raising potential. And then, well, what about as an industry? So, if you're inclined, well, do you support it? Are you willing to share your thought? You could be like the gentleman earlier who said, he doesn't really have a strong opinion for it. His opposition is mostly based on what he believes as a drug it could potentially do to harm. But then he said, well, tobacco is legal. It has 5,000-6,000 known chemicals in it. Many are known to be cancer causing. We can license and sell alcohol. And so there are other things that are legal, but potentially as harmful or more so than the ganja. So is there an issue? Well, your thoughts and your perspective on whether the referendum is a good initiative. How would you like to see it? All right, share with us. 949-8037 or 949-6990. Or likewise, you can WhatsApp us on 925-3261. And if you choose, you could send, your thoughts on our voice note at 925-3261. 925-3261 is our WhatsApp number. You can voice note there. You can type and send it through. We can't take your calls on the WhatsApp line. Those are only for so let's go to the phones. Good afternoon, welcome, thanks for calling.
Dwayne.
Hey, it's good to hear from you, man. How are you?
I good.
Well, if you will be so inclined, I pray to God continues to bless you and the family with immense health and prosperity.
Same for you on Radio K-Man.
Amen, brother. Amen.
It's interesting what the debates were about yesterday in Section A and Section B.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, when it comes to gambling, will they call it gaming or a lottery?
Yeah.
I'm more like, well, what's the benefits of this?
Mm-hmm.
Because money will come, but what's the money going to? And when I listened to it, I said to myself, within my mind, I was saying, okay, maybe we need a transport system, something that will allow people to get from the eastern end of the island to the western end, whether that's a mono or a metro. But at the same time, you might have to cut out the cars, like the argument was as well, seeing that we have imported 400 odd cars between 2019 to date. That's every month. And these are the statistics, and it hasn't slowed down even though we were in a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still increasing cars. But at the same time, if they're gonna introduce the lotto, at least I would propose you do a transport system with it.
Mm-hmm.
Section B, I would say, now, okay, we allowed small quantities. Where we getting it from? Where am I gonna get my small quantities from? Because we still want to eliminate those that are bringing in the large quantities and guns.
Mm-hmm.
So they would have to set up some kind of dispenser where we can go and and purchase these things. But who is that? Is that the pharmacist?
Is it a new business?
There's a lot of questions to having the legal quantity.
What is your? I mean, if you're willing, certainly inclined to ask questions to try to understand, because I think, like many things you're saying, are we thinking it through? It's not just a question of legalizing versus decriminalizing. How is the thing going to work out? What are the logistics? Is what I'm hearing you saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good step. But then I can't go to a pharmacy again. There's no. How do you then start dispensing these small quantities? Who is that?
Yeah.
Are we back to boats? Are we?
But
do you have a car? Do you get your meds?
So if I'm listening to some of what's being said, not just from you, from others, and if you're going to have a quantity that is allowed, can people import it from a supplier overseas? Pay the importation fee, their duties, whatever it is, and then as they would any other commodity, including alcohol or tobacco or candies. But if, as someone said, if that is something that we would do, no, he's not suggesting that's what's being proposed, but if that's what we're going to do, why don't we consider having it farmed? We grow it here, and then you have another industry, you have another way to create more revenue,
job creation. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I haven't been. I think maybe at some point when I do travel again, I might depending on check it out. But I've had people who have traveled across Canada and certain other states within the US and within Europe to go in, use the word dispensary. I think there's probably a good word to say. They're going into these cafes or these places to make a purchase. One individual said it was a very sterile place. It was even more so than the pharmacy with the prescription drugs that are regulated by law. It's not this fun place with music blaring and lights popping and whatever. It was, his words, very sterile. Almost like a surgeon's office almost.
It is, and I think the greatest step is to give it to our government that they've taken this step, right, Sterling? The only thing I see counterproductive about it is that they've allowed a referendum, because they could easily say we pass this and then have the stipulations in which it's passed.
Right.
I think by them going to the public with it, you might have a challenge with it, because they're already in power per se. It's not like you're trying to not have the people have their voice, but they stand a chance of losing.
Yeah. I say it this way, and people can say, boy, you're being offensive. Well, because you don't intend to doesn't mean you're not. But the gentleman this morning said to me, this is a coward's way out. His view, governments in the past, he used the referendum on the cruise port, for instance, as an example.
And it never,
right.
Exactly.
And he shared, and this is someone who I think many of us would certainly say is astute, probably politically more astute than some. And he says, government can get legislation through when it has the power, as is the case, and when they want. So this way, something happens and they can hold their hands and say, well, it wasn't me, it was the public. We did what you said. But I think from what you shared, he referenced that at the end of the day, they're going to be the ones that craft the legislation, and even the wording of the referendum could impact its outcome. So are you saying that it would be better if the government was to bring forward a motion and say, this is what we're going to do, and then...
And how? Because no underage partaking, we're allowed a certain amount. I think the referendum might not work out.
Right.
But if they go straight as they are as the government, they probably work out better.
Yeah.
I have to leave you with that.
That's fine, man. That's fine. Always appreciate when you and others take time. Have a wonderful weekend if I don't chat with you again, okay? All right. Blessings. And to others, share. You may want to speak to that issue. You may want to speak to something else. That's fine. as long as we provide an open, welcoming, sort of platform for people to voice their concerns. We agree on something, that's great. If we don't agree, that's fine too, as long as we're civil and respectful and hopefully somewhat responsible in our commentary. But to the caller's point, he referenced age, for instance. What do we think the age should be? Should it be as it is for alcohol at 18? Should, as many have suggested, that alcohol and tobacco, that the age should be 21? Now, there are different countries that they have different, sort of approaches. Some of us know that in some of the states within the U.S., it's 21 that you can, only legally consume alcoholic beverages. We know that in the state of California, many would champion and hail them. Some would have less than complimentary comments, but nonetheless, they adopted an initiative, towards Tobacco 21, where they raised the age to legally smoke tobacco products, legal tobacco products, legally sold to anyone 21 years of age and older. And they created a very extensive education and public awareness campaign. They saw significant benefits of raising the age in terms of the reduced health costs, the ill health, and the like. All right, as we go to our phones. Hey, welcome, good afternoon, thank you for calling.
Good afternoon, Dwayne, and your listening public.
And to you, sir, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. You are looking as fresh and as sprightly as every day,
Well, thank God, man. I appreciate it. I listen, when your mirror is like mine, the reflection is ought to be shining and bright, man.
Well, exactly, So,
yeah, but I thank God for health, man.
Yeah, a lot of important things. I was watching the debates, and the issues. I want to comment on three issues. The first one is the gambling. Now, of course, there's the issue as to whether there should be a referendum or not. There are some issues there. But the one that I want to comment on really is the idea of whether or not it should be allowed. Whether it is allowed through a referendum or not, of course, is important. But you see, I watched Mr. Bush, go back to what he does best, which is, debating issues. And I think he has read the population very well, and I think he's a master at reading what people want. What he did was, he said, look, why don't you legalize it? And I really think that whether it comes by referendum or even through government, okay, we know if it comes, it will come by referendum. Mm-hmm. The thing about a lot of things like this is that if something becomes prevalent in the community, and then some criminality becomes associated with it, and some people are making money from it, and it is a means of livelihood. Mm-hmm. A point should come where you say, yes, maybe some people might not want it because Cayman is a Christian nation, and of course Cayman is better for being a Christian nation, but at the end of the day, you have to be practical. There are some times when you bring things out of the shadows, legalize them, regulate them, you will find that you achieve greater good. And I think of course, you don't want to legalize it before really like there's pressure to legalize it. But I think you have to recognize when you get to a point where you are doing more harm than good.
Right.
I was so disappointed, to listen to that debate, and they were talking about increasing the penalties and this and that. We must learn from experience. You remember what happened in 2008 when there was a spike in crime. I used to work for government then, and we drafted like 8 criminal bills, to do certain things, including to make penalties for firearms 10 years minimum.
And it was at the same time too, so that I understand that we pass what could be, in order to address the gangs, could be seen as anybody congregating in a certain way, be seen as gangs and the like, colors and display and the like.
Oh, yes, I remember that time. I mean, that's the first time I never thought that in Cayman there were gangs. I got to learn that there are some gangs with names and associated to particular streets and so on. Okay, I'm not saying that it is wrong to to respond to a problem in the community, but you just have to be calculating. Look at what happened when we said, well, the guns, too many guns, and now people will have to go to jail for 10 years. You end up sending to jail, to prison, people who could have been reformed if maybe they had gotten 2 or 3 years imprisonment and so on. And a lot of those happened to be Caymanians. When the tourists came in, and they were found with a gun. Either they were not prosecuted or they were given probation. In the end, it was the local young people, usually, who were suffering. So I think that the gambling, it has got to a point where I think there will be greater good if it is legalized and controlled, rather than trying to make the mistake which was made with firearms. It was assumed that if you become tough, then they will stop, importing firearms. It didn't happen. Okay, so to try to get tough with gambling, you are never going to stop it because it is already part of the fabric of the society, the fabric of how some people make money. So I really agree with Mr. Bush what he said about that. Very briefly about the ganja, Sir Alden also, I think, read the community well. He said, look, why do you want to just decriminalize it, which technically, as you know, means that, okay, if you are caught with some of it, then you will not go to jail and so on, and you won't get a record and so on and so forth. And I think, to me, there's a bit of a problem there, and your previous caller touched a little bit on that, because you can't grow it, you can't import it, but if you are found with it, then they will still arrest you and convict you, but then you won't go to jail and you won't get a record. Why don't you just legalize it?
Right.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, and I want to ask of you, because there are many who would say, well, what's the difference between legalizing and decriminalizing? Is it the same? And it isn't. There's a fundamental difference. You've alluded to it, but could you help us to maybe better understand that? And I ask that because I'm glad to know that in our parliament, both Sir Alden and the Honourable, Mr. Bush, as the first Premier and the former Speaker, lending that political weight to it. I've publicly asked the same question and say, why not champion? Only to have people, make less than flattering comments, but it's from an understanding of what it means and the like. So, decriminalize versus legalize?
Well, first of all, I think the terms are confusing. Okay, if I was the one who was naming them, I would have named them a little bit differently. But let's talk about the way they are understood.
Right.
Legalizing means doing what they've done in Canada. You can grow little amounts for use. You can smoke and everything, and no police officer is going to stop you and arrest you for smoking. In other words, it becomes as legal as alcohol.
Yeah, okay? And like alcohol, you can't drive under the influence if you had a smoke and drive, and you got to be a certain age to consume. That's my understanding in Canada, right?
Exactly. So you regulate it pretty much the way you regulate alcohol in all those respects.
Right.
But decriminalizing, what they mean is that it will still be an offense for you to smoke it or to have it in your possession. But they don't want to call you a criminal because you're doing that. In other words, when you go to court, they won't say, okay, fine, now you are convicted and you now have a record to show that you are in possession of ganja. No, they will practically just give you an administrative fine. You will not get a record. You don't have to have your record expunged. And that's decriminalizing. In other words, it's disapproved of, but the system will not label you a criminal and give you a record.
Okay.
And to me, once you get to that point, just allow it. Allow people to smoke and so on. I really loved to listen to Sir Alden yesterday when he was saying, look, do you think that the people who smoke will say, well, it's very good that if they arrest me and then they take me to court, they'll give me an administrative fine? No. They just say, look, if you want to allow us to smoke, let us smoke.
Right.
And you see, just to wind up this point, in South Africa now, they want to legalize prostitution. Why? Because they've got to a point where the HIV rates are very high, the prostitution is street prostitution, and you know all the vices that go with prostitution. They have now got to a point where, in terms of their studies, they believe if they legalized it, they would reduce the number of girls being killed, being exploited. They would be able to control HIV better because they would license the sex workers and they would be tested periodically and so on. And this is a thing which has been done in other countries as well. So I think that in terms of these issues of gambling and ganja, it is those kinds of solutions which work very quickly. You know, in Portugal, they legalized all drugs. And once they legalized all drugs, including cocaine, consumption has gone down. People are no longer interested, and so they are better off for it.
Yeah, so. And it's some interesting examples. You can weigh in if you wish, but a question that came in, we asked and got a couple of answers. The reason, presumably someone has shared, why we can't go to decriminalizing, I mean, we have to decriminalize, can't go fully to legalizing, is because of the UK. Do you have any insight as to why that would be?
Well, yes, because of the International Convention relating to narcotics, which imposes an obligation on the UK and therefore to the Cayman Islands to do that. But you see, again, this is the thing that sometimes I disagree with some people in Cayman. There must be times when you look at those obligations and you look at them and you say, okay, fine, we see the obligation. But you must then craft a case. You should argue, make some legal arguments. If you don't have legal arguments, you can also just argue factual things to say, according to our data, our society will be better if we can allow this to be done. And therefore, we are asking the UK if they can exempt us from this. It would mean basically going through certain international procedures, you know, to ask for the Cayman Islands to be exempted from those.
But as I listen to you, I'm wondering now if it's a fair extrapolation to say that if that obtains in this instance, then it's not a far stretch to suggest that the UK, not only because of its proposed legislation a couple of Decembers ago, but they could, create through their parliament direct legislation for us. So we don't have the autonomy and the authority that we have. We call it a parliament, but is it much more than a borough council?
Well, it is something. You see, what disappoints me is just to say, well, we can't do this. We have to wait. But usually, when for example, the United Kingdom, for example, can write what is called a reservation. It can file a reservation to the international organizations concerned and try to either opt out of some part of the treaty and so on. They can do that. The thing is, we must not always wait for somebody to say, okay, now the obligation is finished. We must sometimes be the ones to push the need for change or for need for an exemption. You see, this is the same problem that people had with we can't make people stay in Cayman more than 10 years without PR, or 15 years without status, and because the EU has, the European Union has the whole arrangement. They have said that they have imposed certain limitations. One, like Dr. Steve McField has pointed out, there are certain exemptions which would allow Cayman to opt out of those. Not so much opt, actually, because you are under the Constitution, you may discriminate on the basis of employment. You can be able to do that. You just have to be able to make a case. I can tell you, Dwayne, about 1975, the country of Norway, they prohibited strikes in all oil installations. And the unions there took them to the International Labour Organization to say, look, the government of Norway is contravening our freedom of association, the right to form, join, and organize in trade unions. And nobody expected that the government would win that case because of how strong that principle was. But the government was able to make the case that in the case specifically of Norway, because it relied so much on oil, they should be allowed to make greater restrictions because of their unique situation. And I think Cayman needs to take that kind of example and try to learn how to do that.
Well, I always appreciate what you share. I learn a lot by listening to you. Thanks very much, sir.
Well, thank you, sir.
All right. Blessings for the weekend. Let's pause. We'll take the other caller when we come back. Please stay tuned.
They say variety is the spice of life. And that's why at Subway, we're introducing the new Boneless Hot Sub.
Say what?
The premium sub brings new ingredients like spicy breaded boneless chicken, French's crispy fried onions, and buffalo wing sauce, bringing a zesty and flavorful experience with every bite. Add some of your favorite veggies, cheese, and ranch sauce of your choice of freshly baked bread for the ultimate boneless hot sub. For a little spice in your life, try the new boneless hot sub from Subway.
So good and tasty.
And make it a meal with a drink and chips or cookies. Subway. Eat fresh.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointments.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
It's the season of gift giving and holiday cheer. Share a magical experience that will be remembered forever with Penna. The perfect gift awaits you at Penna Duty Free, Victoria's Secret, MAC Cosmetics, and Penna Leather Goods. Visit us at 40 Cardinal Avenue, Georgetown, or at The Grove on 1358 West Bay Road. We have the best gift selections at the very best prices. Between December 12th and 24th, enjoy the 12 Days of Christmas raffle for major prizes. Start your shopping early and win with Penna.
J and Money touching down again. Now you can send your US dollars at any location on island, including the BRAC. It's easy. Just walk with your US dollars. No need to convert to CI. This is another convenient service available at J and Money. They always find a way to make it easier and hassle-free. So remember, when you need to send your money and you only have US dollars, don't ever think of what to do. Just head straight to any J and Money location and send your money the fast, convenient, and affordable J and Money. J and Money, touching down again. J and Money, ranga to la friend.
Did you know that ValueMed Pharmacy has a free online prescription service? Managing your health and medical requirements has never been easier with ValueMed. Simply visit value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com and click the Refill Prescriptions tab on our website. Fill in the information for new prescriptions or refills and choose your preferred pickup location. ValueMed on Walkers Road or Town. Then bring in your original prescription from your doctor when picking up. There's no need to stand in line and wait for your prescription. Save time and pick up prescriptions at your convenience by visiting value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. It's open line. We want to certainly take each and every call as we go to the next one. Hey, welcome. Good afternoon. Thank you for calling.
Hello, Dwayne.
Hey, how are you, sir? How are you today?
Good. Oh, I'm joyful. I'm joyful. I'm proud of my government.
Must be the Christmas breeze.
And I'm proud of Croatia. I know a lot of people don't like that, but that's where we go.
You see,
yeah.
I had my VCR set. I would tape in the game, okay? I would tape in the game. And now everybody telling me who won. Aye.
Now, Dwayne, I was listening to Mr. Billy, right?
Yes, sir.
brilliant. That like Dr. Steve this man, they're brilliant. There's walking encyclopedia. I would really like to meet Mr. Billy. But anyhow, like Mr. Billy said, we, the Cayman Islands, we have to pave our way. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Listen, okay, we come into the marijuana now. This is our fight that we can put up for full legal, full. The United Nations, which England is a part of, lobbied the World Health Organization for 2 or 3 years, maybe a little more. And the World Health Organization, the same one that shut the world down during the corona, tell you where you could jug in yourself and all that, they has took marijuana, cannabis, ganja off of the drug list. They now got it classified for its medicinal and therapeutical benefits. It's no longer classified as a drug. So that's how we can take our fight to the Foreign Commonwealth office. Listen, you guys is a part of this outfit that lobbied, whether you supported it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether you supported it or not, but you're part of that group, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we, as territory, we see this as a new revenue stream because we have medical tourists that would shut our hospital, right? So why can't we lobby and say, listen, certain people want to, because I speak to people all over the world. Some like to use the oil for their medicine, and some like the vape, and some like to just smoke the regular weed.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to go to the doctor to get it, same color rate, right? So there's no reason why we cannot find lawyers that can lobby for us and say, listen, this is what the people of the Cayman want. We want tourists coming out. Look here, our tourists coming from America and Canada. And how much states up there is legal? Canada is full legal. The only country in the world they import, grow, and export. And there are people coming down here, this big sign up, but I think they took down the sign there. About smoke one little spliff, you go to jail and all that. That's listen, we're losing that, but we got a beautiful 7 Mile beach that people would just allow to be just legal and sitting down there watching a sunset and the breeze blowing the smoke down over the Caribbean toward the sun. It's free with nobody troubling them. And the government will be making money.
Mm-hmm.
We lost a generation and a half for drugs simply ganja. And yeah, but it's a gateway drug. Listen to me. It's what your mind do. Some people drink rum all of their life and smoke cigarettes. They never smoke a strip of weed. But they will run the weed down, but they suck up troubling people, and it's all right for them. And you know what really gets me doing? They look at you and say, yeah, but it's legal though. Yeah, it's legal. Like I'm catch you drinking it on the road, it's illegal. If they catch you drunk driving, it's illegal. You understand?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's legal if you're responsible with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that is documented that. But really, I would like somebody to put out a freedom. I know you can't get the patient's name, right? But since the medicinal weed came in, how many people that we have in Grand Cayman now that is reaping the benefits of it? Whether they're doing it under deception or whatever, but once you got your doctor thing, you're gone clear. Because I smoked the vape then, the THC, it licked the spark of your eye. But I don't like that. I like my regular weed. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I don't want it from the doctor. I want it from the jungle. And like I say, I commend the premier, but we got to take it further because listen, people that not everybody got be able to grow the little weed that want to do the little thing. Depends on the job they got is situated. So somebody has to supply the weed. And if the local can't supply it, it can come from overseas. It can be the same thing going on. And it been 9 years now since the medical thing. Listen, we can break the barrier down. It's not gonna be another 9 years before we got this thing again. No man, we gotta come out of this. And Dwayne,
yes, sir.
I hope somebody that have the balls, the sense or something to just, like what Mr. Billy said, we have to present a case. We have to present a case. We're not going to be waiting on Bermuda. Hey, Bermuda presented the case. They shot it down. Well, let us present our case and see what will happen. Nothing finished, nothing done, my brother.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained, huh?
Yeah. I mean, hey, our forefathers, nobody had to tell them to go south like the turtle, you know, because they know where they was. And they went there, that's what we here today. You know?
Yeah.
And Dwayne, you have a wonderful day, my friend.
Thank you too, sir. And you have a wonderful weekend as well, sir. All right. Let's pause. Let's take a break. Who wants to weigh in? You know, you can take the other side of the coin. You can take another coin from the set. In fact, you might know more coins. You might want to play with the silver dollar. Hey, I don't know. But you share your thoughts with us. I certainly want to hear. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
You know, Savannah Pharmacy saved my life.
Really? Was it the medication they got you?
No, not this time. I forgot my wife's birthday. They were the perfect place for last-minute shopping.
That's one way to give yourself heart failure. Don't wait last minute for Christmas. Savannah Pharmacy is stocked up for Christmas right now. Gifts for men, women, and children. Home decor, clothes, toys for all ages, fragrances, candles, handbags, and so much more. I was there the other day, and trust me, they'll even wrap all your presents too.
Savannah Pharmacy, a lifesaver in more ways than one.
Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village provides you with more than just prescriptions. Always just around the corner with everything your family needs for this holiday season. WhatsApp your prescription refills to 929-5045.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Can you imagine your home completely organized? At Brand Source Custom Closets, we can. We specialize in designing and building custom closets and storage units for any room in your home, including the garage. With tailored designs and custom LED lighting solutions to fit your lifestyle and budget. Our Custom Closets expert is committed to enhancing the value of your home with a solution that is uniquely yours. Visit our showroom or call 623-6774 to schedule a no-obligation appointment with our design expert. Brand Source Custom Closets, 209 Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
It's the final sale of the year at Reflections with up to 50% savings on selected famous brands such as Nike, Reebok, Puma, US Polo, Adidas, Levi's, and Dockers pants for men and women. This holiday gift-giving season, Reflections gift certificates are the easiest way to share your love with friends and family. Levi's and Dockers holiday collection just arrived. Discover your new style and enjoy huge savings on shoes, bags, accessories, and the most fashionable clothing for all your holiday parties. Hurry in today. Purchase Reflections gift certificates for everyone on your shopping list and outfit yourself from their finest holiday collection. Don't miss up to 50% off savings at Reflections Holiday Sales Event. See yourself in Reflections. Open 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Thursday and until 9 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. Reflections is located on Sheridan Road across from Napa.
Your Radio Cayman 6 p.m. news, Monday through Friday, is brought to you by Logic. Your life connected.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. And very, very encouraging. Very encouraged by the amount of individuals who listen to the parliamentary proceedings. Some as it's unfolding, others they'll come back and follow it here on our programming so that you get what is transpiring. Now, for many of us, we would probably like to go in person, but it's not convenient for some. I didn't realize this was a perception. Hopefully, it's not widespread, but for some, they feel the Parliament building like the courts that's inaccessible. No, not the security issues, but for some, they don't feel that it's a place where the public is invited to go and follow along with what is happening. Now, one of the two gentlemen who shared, he said, on the BRAC, if it's in session, and particularly the court, when it meets over there, that the people would go and attend. It's not because they don't have anything to do, but because they, his perspective, understand the significance of civic engagement and going and listening and following along. And to an extent, I wonder if that is what's happening. We have these things unfolding in our society where if we're not directly impacted or connected to it, we figure, well, it can't be that important. If it is, someone will tell us, we'll find out about it. But his view is that when the people are the view that a case before the court, you can't get in. This need be a sensational case. He gave us an example, a number of cases. The most recent, to his mind, was the one relative to the challenge on the elections law, the Rivers Hewitt case, and he shared increasingly more and more people attended the proceedings. It was a challenge sometimes to even find a seat, and it was the interest that the general public had, not so much from the perspective of wanting a particular outcome, but to hear it firsthand. I know it's busy. Parking is a challenge. How do we schedule ourselves? And equally, maybe the convenience of having it, a live broadcast from the video to the audio. But if it's such that we can be there in person, well, would that be another way to engage a populace? But nonetheless, as we weigh in what he's sharing, and the assembly goes back on Monday, do you have a perspective, whether it's on the issue of any of the referendum questions, as they'll be pertaining to gambling and to the cannabis? Is your view perhaps sufficiently formulated that if there was a vote tomorrow, you know where you would vote? If, that would depend on the wording of the question in itself can be significant. And are you like some who would say, well, let's not get into legalize versus decriminalize. Let's assess it properly and understand the pros and cons. Now, some, and I just messaged to make sure that I got the consent of the person. Very, very quick reminder, please don't mention my name. Try not to paint it in a way that isn't an accurate reflection of what I share. But this person is very much of the view that this could be one of those cases where, as much as we are inclined to want to do the right thing, are we rushing what is it that we're going to do? And having the public engaged through a referendum may in fact be a nice opt-out for politicians, very strategic, very important. It may be that it's so significantly important that we should have this issue. But then there are a number of other issues. Say, what about the 30-story building? Would that be an issue for a referendum? Why do we somehow discard the notion on the cruise port? What about the pace of development, the population? a lot of issues that are very important to some people, more so to some than others. But at what point, are we going to decide what issue or issues are necessary for the public to weigh in relative to a referendum? Now, his perspective is that when we look at this issue, are we going to consider that, if we make it legal or decriminalize and there isn't a conviction recorded, that may help some people? Well, his exchange was there are still challenges that some, despite having legislation to have certain offences expunged, removed from their police record, there's a challenge, allegedly, as he shares, for some to, even when they qualify, they still have an extended delay and hassle. Wasn't the word he used, but perhaps what is implied. Now, is that true, or is that an issue? And he shares, with respect, again, to legalizing and decriminalizing, have you sufficiently given thought to the impact of one versus the other? And what about other issues? Revenue stream to the government. The idea that could we end up with a case where somebody can get something. He gave us an example, the issue with spare guns. If you have a license for a spare gun, then it's legal to have one. But it was difficult getting a license or getting your license renewed, and you couldn't get the spare parts that you needed. Now, that was an issue for the longest of times, he said. How do we address that? What is the consequence? What was the intent? Is this the same thing? Again, drawing inference from what he shared. Are we trying to do something to pay lip service to it, but not really wholehearted committed to it? It's more of a, not his words, mine. Again, drawing inference. It's more of a political win. You've done something, but you really haven't done anything. It's not meaningful, and you're just kicking the can down the road. Now, what about the other side of the coin, where you are that opponent of something? You see that, take gambling for instance, the issues of addiction. The late Pastor Al, I think, had made some very, very public comments, borrowing from research about the negative consequences of addiction, the impact that gambling and casinos have in communities. I think he presented in a very, very, as is his style, very forthright, but non-confrontational, but very, very deliberate and direct, respectful manner, that in the communities, he was borrowing from research within the US, where there were casinos, the promised financial benefits did not necessarily accrue to those communities. There were windfalls for the entities involved, but the economic benefits for the area necessarily weren't always as promised. Then, of course, you see the individuals for whom they may gamble, and the stories that are often relayed, people spending their paycheck, they're taking their money to feed that gambling addiction, very much like a substance abuse issue. So are we looking at it carefully? The issue of gambling has, come up in the past. Have we now sufficiently gotten to a space where we can address it, take away the criminal element, again by licensing and regulation? Is it a lottery and a lottery only that we're doing? Are we going to have gaming houses and casinos and the like, whether they're on the cruise ships to allow them to stay into our territorial waters, perhaps into port much longer? What about those things that would be akin to the riverboat cruises that we may see in some parts of the world? You get on and you can gamble on evening cruise. Or what about the notion of just a lottery sold in your supermarkets and gas stations, in your other outlets, and there's some sort of reward for selling it, the convenience of purchasing it, and the money raised presumably to fund a worthy cause, whether it's education or housing or healthcare or the like. But have we looked at it sufficiently? Now, again, maybe there are more than one side to the story, one way to look at it. But as this gentleman has asked, are we looking at it sufficiently to weigh the pros and cons? And is it that we have to rush this to get it before the next general election. Should we have it in place by the start of the second quarter next year? Will it be, in a year's time? Or is it that we want to do the right thing and have exhausted as much as possible all of the pros and cons so that we do the right thing that will benefit the country? Well, please weigh in and share your thoughts with us. 949-8037. You can call us on the toll-free line at 1-800-534-8255. You can also WhatsApp, 925-3261. Remember, that's just to send a message either by voice note or somehow, it's typed or text to speech. But please, you can't call us that we're able to answer that number. So WhatsApp only, 925-3261. Well, our headline news at 2 is almost, seconds away. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
We give you honor and praise, adoration and glory.
Radio Cable.
Praise time.
Praise him, praise him. Come and let's praise the Lord. Come and let's praise the Lord. Praise him in the morning and in the evening. Oh, let's praise the Lord.
Praise time in the morning.
Praise him, praise him.
Weekdays 6 to 6:30 a.m.
Radio Cayman, waking you up.
Rock my soul in the blues of my favorite. Rock my soul in the blues of my favorite.
Praise time.
I know he cares. He'll always be there. Oh, yeah. Praise him, praise him, praise him.
Praise time.
Set your clock for 6 a.m. or you will miss it. Follow Radio Cayman on Twitter. All the latest information, breaking news, community events, and more. Follow us at twitter.com/Radio Cayman.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. The offices of the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development, including the Treasury Department and the Treasury Cashier Counter, are closed for the afternoon of Friday, December 9th to accommodate a staff function. Normal business hours will resume on Monday, December 12th at 9 a.m. In international news, Rishi Sunak has announced a collaboration between the UK, Italy and Japan to develop a new fighter jet that uses artificial intelligence. The Prime Minister of the UK says the joint venture aims to create thousands of UK jobs and strengthen security ties. The nations will develop a new generation fighter due to enter service in the mid-2030s. That will eventually replace the Typhoon jet. It is hoped the new Tempest jet will carry the latest weapons. The King and the Queen consort have met Wrexham AFC's Hollywood co-owners on a visit to the area to celebrate its new city status. The royal couple chatted with actors Ryan Reynolds and Rob McKenley and players on the pitch and learned about the football club's redevelopment. King Charles and Queen Camilla were in Wrexham to formally confer the city status. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon, welcome back, and thank you for joining us. Can you believe it? It's a Friday already. Wow, December the 9th. I know many of us were probably remembering when it became in the year 2000 just to write that on our letters or checks and the like. It sounded weird, and now it's almost soon to be writing 2023. Oh, how time flies. I tell you. Didn't think that you would be able to add 2 centuries to your life after experiencing 2020 and 2021. It seemed like 2 long years that are more like centuries. And I say that to ask where are we now relative to where we thought we would be? Where are we now relative to, what transpired? Are we sort of repositioning? Are we better prepared for many things and the eventualities that may befall us as we go to our phones? Hey, welcome. Good afternoon. Thank you for calling.
Hi. How are you doing?
Excellent, my friend. How are you today?
Pretty good.
All right.
Kind of sad, though.
Talk to me, my son. Why are those sad?
The public seems to be unaware,
apathetic,
or don't care about a very serious situation that's playing out in front of us.
Is it apathetic or unaware?
I know in some cases it's unaware, but it's kind of hard for me to just strike an average.
Fair enough. But tell us what's playing out and tell us why it saddens you.
There's a bill before the House to amend the Anti-Corruption Act.
Mm-hmm.
And it's specifically Section 17 is one of the issues that bothers me.
Right.
Now this section applies to public officers and politicians. It doesn't apply to the general public. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
The effect that is going to take place if the law is amended the way the government is proposing is it will make it easier for public officers and politicians to get away with corruption, specifically the abuse of authority.
Because of this,
it'll make it easier to get away because because what they're doing is they're amending the bill to include the word intentional.
Mm-hmm. Speaks to intent.
And so what that means is when you go to try to prosecute, not only do you have to prove that they did the act, you have to prove that they intended the intent of, depending on the nature of what it is, that the intent was there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to some, they think that's great, but I don't. That is actually making the public be to a higher standard than it is for politicians, because that intent, when dealing with individuals, not this particular section, but other sections, some sections don't require intent to be proven. It just requires, did you do the act? Like, I'll give you an example. Suppose you were driving down the road and you were reading a text message on your phone. And as a result of being distracted by that text message, you ran over someone and you killed them. Well, the way that Section 17 is designed to work is that your negligence or your recklessness in running over that person is all that needs to be proved in order for you to be convicted. When the government amendment takes place, not only would you have to prove that that you ran over the person and killed him, but you also would have to prove that they intended to run over the person and kill him. Otherwise, you couldn't convict the person.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is the person didn't actually intend to kill the person. They intended to read a text message when they shouldn't have been reading the text message, and they were never, ever thinking about running over someone and killing them.
Was not the intent.
That's when you're addressing the intent.
Mm-hmm.
The person wasn't driving down the road thinking, who can I run over? Now they're thinking, how can I get to where I'm going? And while I'm doing that, how can I read a message at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, people should know that's dangerous. Shouldn't do it. But it's not like the person was thinking, I intended to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So the point I'm trying to make is that to prosecute that person for wrongfully killing someone, you wouldn't have to prove that they intended to kill them. But if you did have to prove that you were intending to kill them, that would be extremely difficult to achieve. Now, with modern technology in the example I gave, they could know that you were on your phone at the time that it happened if it was reported immediately and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But with this amendment, you're going to have to get into the mind of a politician and prove that they intended to abuse their office for the benefit of themselves or their family, or depending on what the abuse of authority happens to be. And it's going to become even harder to successfully prosecute a politician for abuse of authority. If you think they're out of reach now, wait until that amendment passes.
Do we understand what it was that was the sort of motivation for this amendment, this proposed amendment?
Well, there are rumors going around, but I can't say on radio what the rumors are.
Okay, yeah, maybe I should ask. I mean, in publishing the proposed amendment, was there anything that was accompanying it to say this is why we're? Because many times, we see with.
Well, what they're saying is that their amendment doesn't change the meaning of the existing law.
Mm-hmm.
The lawyers I speak to say, of course it will change the meaning of it. Well, why? If the word intentional is not there, and then you put the word intentional there, then that clearly is a change. And let's think about the logic of that for a second.
Right.
The logic they want us to believe is that they feel it necessary to go through the work in haste to change the law, that there would be no difference of changing the law.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, isn't it by sheer definition when you amend something is to change it?
Yes. In other words, what I'm trying to say is that I believe that they are being dishonest with us.
Okay.
That they are changing it for no purpose.
So why change it then? Is what you're saying?
My interaction with lawyers off the air is that, of course, it will change it.
So you're saying if somebody's intended to change something, why expend the energy to change it if it's not going to be a change?
That's right.
Okay.
That would be foolish.
Okay.
I mean, not that governments don't do foolish things, but this would be taking the cake.
But like so many of the things, I mean, I'm listening to you and I'm having a small exchange with two individuals, and one of the two is sharing that they're, in addition to the legislation you reference in the one for the referendum, there's also the contempt of court. So lots of amendments and the like that are coming about, not with a lot of legislation.
Regarding the amendment on the contempt of court, when it comes to that, because that applies to us, of course intent doesn't have to be proven. Now, isn't that interesting? Two completely different standards on two different bills before the quote Parliament, end of quote, at the same time.
And I guess I can understand increasingly why you had said, what you shared at the beginning relative to the wider public. But is it then that, to the public's defense, perhaps we consume it so much, especially this time of year, and to what extent, has the government sufficiently done a job of saying, this is what is going to come up before the next sitting, and be aware of it, so that people have a chance. I mean, we hear about a lot of things that maybe don't make as much in of an impact that perhaps these could. So
well, when it comes to anything that of uncertainty that will affect politicians, you have to take it to a referendum. Okay? When there's certainty about something, they don't take it to a referendum. Okay? Even if it's a matter of national importance. Right now, you have this ID registry thing, which I hold, and I listened to Sammy Jackson, who is a very good lawyer. Listen to him on your radio station yesterday talking about it. There is some really serious issues that we need to take care of. And I'm afraid that people are just looking at the pros and not looking at the cons. And whenever somebody raises an idea about a con, they say, well, you're being negative. Let me ask you this question. If two people come to your house and one person says, man, your windows look really nice, and then they say, I like the view, and the other person said, well, your sink is broken, let me help you fix it. Your grass looks like it needs to be cut, let me help you cut it. I noticed that some of the sheeting on your roof is damaged, let me help you repair that before hurricane comes. Who's being negative?
Yeah, and even if they were to say, well, I can't help you, but are you aware of it?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
That's right. And unfortunately, I believe that there's some serious distraction going on.
I can see the difference, yes. We have the final break to take. You're more than welcome to remain if you wish to share more. If not, give us your final points.
I'll remain, and if you have another caller, then I'll let them go.
Well, I see that. See how amenable we are. All right, let's pause. We'll take that quick break, and when we come back, if you call, well, this one will yield. If not, we'll continue. Stay tuned.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences. We think it's time you crossed over to a new vehicle. And with the Toyota Corolla Cross, now at Vamp Motors, you have plenty of reasons to make the switch. The crossover body and hybrid engine is a sleek design in a sturdy structure with a spacious interior that opens to extensive cargo space. Stuck in traffic? The high-performance self-charging hybrid system automatically switches between gas and electric vehicle mode, helping you lower both fuel costs and carbon emissions. The Corolla Cross has full LED lighting inside and out, an integrated display audio system with energy monitor, and a dual-zone climate control system to ensure comfort for all. Test drive the new Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid today at Vamp Motors, Walkers Road.
The offices of dermatologist Dr. Dwayne Porter will be taking appointments from December 2nd through the 10th at his Crew Road Clinic. Appointment slots are limited. Whether you're seeking advanced skincare, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email dr.porterkman@gmail.com or call 946-9020 to book your appointment today. That is 946-9020.
So, you missed out on the Black Friday sales? Don't worry, Roro Variety has you covered. The 10th sale is back, one day only, Saturday, December 10th from 7 a.m. T-shirts, 5 for $10. Jeans, you name it, Roro has it. Shoes, household items, bathroom accessories, towels, clocks, and handbags. The Roro Variety 10th sale, Saturday, December 10th from 7 a.m. Roro Variety Store, Tropical Plaza, Smith Road. Call 924-9553. The 6:30 p.m. weather report, Monday through Friday, is proudly sponsored by CG Britcay. Insurance, health, pensions, life, where people come first.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. We do have a caller on hold and another just joining the queue, but let's go to the previous caller. Hey, thanks very much for being so amenable. But were there some other things you wanted to share, as you shared?
Yeah, I'd just say that, one of the things I heard people say about the ID is that they want it so that they can prove that they're Caymanian.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're still going to have to go through the process with the Department of Work to prove that you are entitled to be called a Caymanian before it can be recognized on the card.
Mm-hmm.
So today, if somebody wants to have proof that they are a Caymanian, they can go to the Department of Work, show the birth certificates that show that they have the right to be called a Caymanian, and they can get a certificate from the department saying that you have the right to be called a Caymanian. You can do that today.
So even satisfying the requirements for the card, at some point you need to show...
Of course you're going to still have to satisfy the requirement.
Well, it seemed to... Well, maybe we'll start asking questions and thinking, who knows?
All right.
Okay. Thank you again, sir. Always learn something as well. Thanks to the caller as well. Good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you for calling.
Good afternoon. How are you doing today?
Excellent. How about you?
I'm good too, thanks.
Oh, man.
I'm thankful, you know?
Here, a man is feeling the Christmas breeze and realizing, it's going to be a good day, right?
That's right. It is a good day. It is a good day. What I wanted to talk about, but I don't know if I can comment about what the previous caller just made about the ID. People using it to prove they're Caymanian. He's absolutely right. And that's one thing I always thought about was that why can't they just put into legislation that the voter ID card is enough to prove that you're Caymanian, because we had to go through the same process, the same paperwork to be able to show it in order to be able to be eligible to vote.
But it's and to your point, it's perhaps hasn't been said sufficiently, perhaps hasn't been said in a way that has been convincing, and we've alluded to it. But I know that because of this digital ID, right here in the studio are guests who should be who are properly placed, have alluded to the fact that we have some questions about the voter's ID and the fact that it would seem that there are concerns that some of us who possess a voter's ID may not necessarily have been eligible as such to receive one, otherwise are not Caymanian. And it seemingly is the same issue with the possession of the Cayman Islands passport, that it's been issued to people who are not Caymanian.
Right.
And I'm not saying that to disparage anybody, but if we have at least concern that this could be an issue either with the voter's ID, with the passport, or both, is there a better exercise that we need to address? And do not please lose your train of thought, but let's say, for instance, that it became mandatory to have this national ID. Let's say there was no concern at all. It was only an ID. It did nothing else other than, it's a photo ID. It's not a credit card. It's not a health insurance card. You can't travel on it. It doesn't entitle you to any services other than what you'll be entitled as a citizen. It doesn't have no biometrics. It's just a photo. That was all, right? Let's just say with no concerns. Are we going to say that when we go through this exercise, it's mandatory, every single person has to have one? So you may have a passport, you may have a birth certificate, you may have a voter's ID, but this process is going to be so diligent that even if you have that, we're going to be able to determine whether you have it fraudulently or not. So at the end of the day, we're going to know your immigration status, your citizenship, whether you're Caymanian, is that what they're saying?
Okay, I get you.
Okay.
All right. Yes. Just one quick little thing about the two questions that would potentially be up for a referendum.
Mm-hmm.
My only problem with it is that the two questions I mean, I already know what side I stand on. I mean, based on my faith and everything. But the questions are vague in that it's not telling the public, okay, if we're talking about the lottery, how will the lottery be run? Where will the money proceeds go to?
Mm-hmm.
Will it go back into the country's purse to be specifically used for education or health services or care of the elderly? Or
Right.
It's not specific as saying that, right? I remember I was in university in the States, and in my state that I was in, they were bringing in the lottery at the time, and they had basically what was amounted to a referendum too.
Mm-hmm.
And their biggest selling point was that the money would be used for education,
Mm-hmm.
evenly across the state, and it passed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the government here is not saying anything about what the money would be used for, how it would be run. Will it be one lottery number? Will it be two sets of lottery things? Will it be a weekly thing? But you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's not, yeah. And with the other bill, with the other question, they're not saying, okay, if this thing passes, will all those persons who in the past would have fell under that category, will they automatically be expunged? Will their records be automatically expunged? Because I'm hearing a lot of people saying, I thought, I can't go to the States now because of this, because of that problem. I'm going to vote for it because then I'll be able to go to the States. But the government is not necessarily saying that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not saying that it's going to free up, opportunities. Basically, it is kind of alluding that from here on out, people won't fall into that category anymore because it will be decriminalized, right? But even that is not spelled out. So,
good points and good concerns. I can imagine others have something similar.
yeah, so I mean, it's easy for people to get misled or to come to conclusions that might or might not be right. And so that's my problem with it,
Well, I'm hoping that, like you, others too would perhaps not only start to seek clarification and ask questions, but reach out to our elected representatives. One of the things that I say was the greatest benefit, and I say it this way, hopefully it'll offend enough people to see the fallacy, or I should put it perhaps more succinctly, the stupidity of chopping the country up into 19 little bits and pieces and create garrison communities. But we were told, you have one person that you can hold accountable with this one man, one vote nonsense. So maybe they'll reach out to each one of them. I mean, that is the absolutely stupidest thing I could think that this country, as small as we are, to have done. But then again, I could be proven wrong tomorrow. It might just mean even more foolish. And it's really ridiculous, man, to see that we're fighting each other and not trying to come together. So
exactly.
Maybe your thoughts will inspire others to start to ask questions, and not to beat up on the parliamentarians, but to ask, hey, come and share with us what you understand about this proposed legislation. Why would you vote the way you're going to vote? And some of us would be, yeah, that makes sense. I didn't know that. Others would go, well, no, that don't really make much sense because of, this, that, or the next. But there's no dialogue. There's no respect. There's a lot of division, discord, and disharmony.
Yeah.
All right, my friend. Anything else you want to share?
No, I'm good. I just want to wish you Merry Christmas and all your family upcoming health for upcoming year as well.
And to yours too, sir. Por eso we'll be able to say Feliz Navidad.
There you go.
Yeah, man. But blessings, man. Igualmente, Hey, perhaps, what we'll do, thank you so much, sir, for that call, is be able to celebrate that spirit of what someone subscribed to only at Christmas, but every day. I know my comments just then may seem harsh, but it would deliberately construed to do such. We're told, some of us, because we listen to what our parents have shared, some of us, we just repeat it because we've heard it often. Some of us actually believe it. A house divided can't stand. Some of us might even be able to say that comes from the book somewhere and know which book it is. Yeah, some of us might even be able to point to the chapter and verse. Others would just know that it comes there and can find it if we have to. But I say that to share that, there are many people, and I'm grateful to those of us who, when we stand by something and we realize, I I was either misled, misinformed, or I've now come to a better sense of information, I realized I wasn't the best position in. Hey, that's a sense of a sensible, mature, responsible person, who takes ownership and responsibility and accountability. And, I vehemently opposed the vote to have the one man, one person vote. Statistically, it wasn't in favor of the weight. The individual voter / elector in a constituency of 500 versus the one was in another constituency of 1,000. That person in 500 had twice the vote. On a weighted average, they each had one representative and could cast one vote. So you say, well, it must be equal. There must be a sense of parity. But not necessarily if you can look at it from a weighted average perspective. But more than that, think about, communities where not just, the neighbors or the center line down the road, but you have one representative on one side of the fence and one on the other. Well, really, does the road matter that much? Who's representative? The road wants to be paved. Whether you pave one side and leave the other, potential that could happen. But again, the division. You look at some points, as I'm told, how they intersect. You may have at that one point, one representative on this side of the point, one representative on that side, one on the other. Now, we all live in the same district. We all live in the same country. Do we need to have continued division? As I'm encouraged by someone in particular, maybe we want to transform the system to improve it, but is that because we're going to sit down and try to think of, well, how do we achieve this greater sense of participation, this greater sense of democracy, but be also willing to give a greater sense of authority to those in position because they expect to be held more accountable, because we now going to play that role of oversight and hold them accountable because we're going to get involved, engaged, and informed. Well, not because you say something harsher sometimes that it means it has to be cutting. Now, just because you say something with a smile, it means that it's a compliment. But if you say something honestly, it could help people if they take it on board. It certainly shouldn't hurt for too long. They say the truth will set you free. That may not always be true. All right, have a wonderful, safe, productive, blessed weekend as best as you can. Recognize that as challenging as it is now and as impossible as it may seem to embrace what we endure, perhaps, we stand strong, not so much for others, but for our own, sense of presence and well-being. Draw alongside each other, as Mr. Art reminds us, and we are our brother's keeper. So please join Mr. Art come Monday morning for the record. He's said publicly, he's got Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and he's taking the Christmas hiatus. I think he's going to look for that turtle meat and cornbread, perhaps the cassava cake, maybe the domino game. But I certainly pray that he'll continue to have great health, and as he exercises and enjoys that bike ride in the cool Christmas breeze, that he'll be safe like many others. So have a wonderful weekend. God's willing, join us for more Talk Today on Monday. And if you got a special request for a Christmas song, Susan will play it for you. Stay tuned for all of our programming until Monday. Be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
46 years.
3 beloved isles. 1 beloved station, Radio Cayman.
The voice.
The heart. The soul of the Cayman Islands.